Hi there, this is Nompendula Shabangu bringing you yet another exciting episode of Business Unearthed, and I am in such a beautiful place, as you can see. And the most important thing, I believe, is the fact that it's in Maung. I always say, of course, I'm biased because this is home, and this is home as well. You know, this lady who's sitting right next to me, she is home. She embodies home in so many different ways, and I would not do her much justice if I, try to encapsulate who she is. And of course, an introduction is not going to give you a full picture, but I believe that as you stay right here, you're going to receive so much. So, hello, lady.
Hello.
How are you today?
Great.
Thank you so much for bringing me into this beautiful space. Last time I was in Maung, this wasn't here.
Yep.
And I think that's the beauty of life, is that, life moves. Life moves. But let me not take your shine for now. You can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay. Gosh, I have to learn this one. How do we introduce ourselves? That should be a whole podcast. Who am I? Gosh, I am infinite possibilities. That's what I've come to know about myself. I am so many things. I wear so many hats. The one that's coming off right now, that's begging to be present, is I'm a mama. I'm a mama to teenagers. I'm a mom to teenagers, 17-year-old boy. Kaya, you're talking about home. I named him Home because he made me feel like now I have a home.
Wow.
He completed that. And then Tashata is joy, and she brought joy. She just sprinkled it all in. So that's who I am. I'm a wife of 23 years.
That's incredible. Quarter of a century.
Half of my life.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was actually 23 when I got married, come to think of it. And I am a psychologist, a disaster psychologist, which I've done for 13 years. Graduated, but 7 years as a trainee, so 20 years. I'm currently trying on another hat of being a teacher, which was the first thing that I did. I used to teach in a primary school at 17, 18, and now I'm going into teaching and hopping on the world wide web and podcasting through the MatriArk.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Finally. I want to add that, finally.
Yes, and so that's who I am
Yeah.
for right now. It's all the different hats that I wear, but mostly just it's the enabling of these possibilities. So it's an exciting place to be. You know, when I stop being just Dr. Didi.
Yeah.
And my favorite, actually, it's Mazan.
Okay.
I was named this by Transitional Youth in
Nice.
2015.
Okay.
They said, you know what, Dr. D, I think when I was trying to like a Mazan. You were just a Mazan.
Yeah.
And so I thought, oh, yeah. Well, now you're in the Zen
And
Den.
the name set. Yes, and now you're actually talking about that. We've got a guest here. You're talking about the den. I was actually going to go into that as well to say, tell us, where are we? Tell the viewer at home, where are we? Where are we sitting? What's happening here?
What's happening here? We are in the Zen Den. I decided a month ago that I needed a studio so bad. And we had a house that was incomplete. And so my husband went and got us some black chalkboard paint. And we turned our toilet, bathroom, into the Zen Den.
Beautiful.
Because I actually have always been able to think better in bathrooms. It's sad, but I know most mothers can relate with that.
Oh,
even others.
You see, yeah. I think mothers on a different level.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I think this is the only time where I get to be, but at least when your children are older, because when they're younger, they just barge in there, from what I hear and from the memes I've seen on social media.
My timeout was the bathroom.
Yeah.
Mommy's on timeout.
Absolutely beautiful. And so, you know, I know your story. We met, jeez, how many years ago was that?
2016 when I first moved here.
6 years ago.
Yep.
When was, because I distinctly remember the vision board. You know, when you came and there was an event at the Life Center.
Oh, that was 2015. Were you there?
Yes, I was there, and you you came onto the stage, and you were carrying your vision board, and you had tears in your eyes, and I remember you saying, "Magic happens in my home."
Oh my gosh, you're gonna make me cry. I didn't know you were there.
I was there.
Yeah, May.
You're wearing a red
jumpsuit.
You
were there in 2015. Oh my gosh, funny story. That vision board I started up Kale Hill when I was depressed.
Yeah.
And a lady who came to house sit for me from Texas was doing a gratitude gala. And a friend of mine, Bakani July, told her that, well, Didi has been working on a healer. It's kind of similar to what you want to do. And so Leah and I met because of that. And then while she's house sitting for us, when we were in the States, she gets proposed to and ends up getting married in the Delta.
I remember that.
And,
yes.
And did I share the story? That's how I ended up at the Life Center. And, oh my gosh. And from the Life Center, I meet the lackeys. So I contact Jana Lackey Mamuruti, and I say, hey, after that whole sharing of the vision board, because I met my husband in Maung.
Yes. Where the magic happens.
But I didn't know that was not just the magic. The magic has since happened. And I think even more. So I call Miss Mamurti Lackey, Dr. Lackey, and I say, hey, I think I want to move to Maung. I need a place. Where do I start? And she's like, go to Facebook. There's a Maung bulletin. And if you request it, I'll let you in. I'm like, what? How exclusive it come out, huh? And at that point, I was not on Facebook because I hadn't been. And anyways, I end up on Facebook looking through my own bulletin, and that's how we found this place.
Wow.
A Wana connection, I think.
I love it.
Crazy.
I love it so much.
And now we've got a Zandan.
A Zandan. Okay. You always, whenever I come here, you always take me to a new spot. So I know I'm coming, I know where I'm going, but it's a new place altogether. So thank you so much for having me in here. I know we're going to have an absolutely phenomenal time. Okay, so I'm sitting with Dr. Didi, right? But I named her Lady D. You have so many names and you take them in so graciously.
Yeah, and you're the only one who calls me Lady D. I feel like I have to be a lady every time I'm with you. Look at me. Look at how I'm sitting.
Lady Didi. Lady D for short. I'm just feeling very strongly to ask you right now, because I know a bit of where this conversation is going. What is your favorite thing about being a mom?
My favorite thing about being a mom, it's learning. It's like it's a second lease in learning things that I didn't learn or that I forgot. It's gosh, my other favorite thing, it's just, I'm in awe. Have you spent time with my kids?
Yeah.
I got lucky, eh?
Well, I spent time with them when they were younger, and they just are growing exponentially.
They teach me so much. They teach me all my blind spots. You know, it's the learning and the unconditional love. My kids think I'm a rock star, so like, come on.
Yeah.
You know, I just love it.
Yeah. So Lady D, you and I met, and my introduction to you was the AfroBotho lady, you know, take me through your journey, take me through your work, take me to how you got there.
Ever since I graduated as a disaster psychologist, I came back and was in Gabs, Gaborone, and doing private practice stuff. And what I noticed the most was, because, you know, trauma was more what I was specializing in, was that I was seeing a lot of children, people's children. And then when I would ask them to come, because sooner or later you find out the children are not really the problem, right? And it ended up being an instant where people were too busy in their boardrooms or at their workplaces. So I transitioned from seeing clients, you know, your traditional therapy room, to actually going into the workspace. Started with your employee assistance programs. And what I was really basically doing was bringing all the issues that had come out, you know, a lot of conflict resolution issues, anger issues, emotional intelligence stuff. And so I started actually training. And then that has just kind of slowly, you know, like I said, 7 years of supervised clinical work and 13 on my own. And I realized that 20 years of collecting sad stories is enough. Nobody's going to say, hey, enough, your heart has had enough. I had to just be like be dragged on the ground, and because I do love it.
And knowing you're such a feeler. You feel. I remember sitting in one of your sessions, you know, because I'd been allowed in, and you know, I won't say it now. I don't know if you remember it, but you know, tears were flowing down your cheeks. And I know that usually people say, you know, you need to have it together and, you know, be professional. But I remember just seeing you in your element, you know, saying, I'm human too, and I can feel what you are feeling, you know, maybe not precisely. So I can imagine that you really just took a lot of that in.
Yes, I have seen all kinds of pain, but pain's the same. And I now am transitioning into joy. It's my season of joy. And I wanted specifically because, you know, my kids are also going into, I mean, Kaya is going to be a young adult soon. So I felt that, you know, if I can give that 10 years, 10 years, and it gives me, you know, contact with my favorite role, my kids. But at the same time, you know, they say, you know, the best time to plant trees 20 years ago. I really think we can do that with our children too. You know, just going in intentionally to say, I want these young people, when they become adults, to have this and this and this on. You know, like if you've got a coach, trainer, it would be like, okay, let's work on these muscle, your posture, your this, your that. I'm going into the next 20 years of my life specifically like that. I
love it. I love that you are so intentional about it. You know, I usually say, I believe God, one of the greatest gifts he's given us is to partner with him on this journey. You know, we always feel like it's no, do this, and no, do that. But there's, you know, that sense of come alongside me. Let's walk together.
Let me show you infinite possibilities.
And, you know, what I've noticed, and just talking to you just over the past few days and planning for this as well, is that there's been a transition. And in as much as you say that, you know, you were dragged out kicking and screaming, but you knew that it was supposed to happen.
It was supposed to happen a while ago. It really was. But, you know, I wasn't ready. I went to the camp to collect a few of our paintings, and I remember going, this is it. This is it. Because, you know, I say the camp, and I'm referring to the AfroBotho camp. And for me, that's still part of the babies, right? But it's like, okay, you've given it 7 years, let it do what it needs to do, and then take care of other things, which is now solely on Botho core. So I'm spending my time on Botho core, which is really it's again building a mental health ecosystem, but starting a pilot in the Okavango area. You know, when you sit down and you just think, for me anyways, where I sit down, there's always an elephant in the room.
There's literally an elephant,
a literal elephant in the room. And it's to remind us that, you know, this is the area where the nation gets money to develop roads, develop schools, develop.
Yes.
And the very place where we are harnessing and harvesting all of this money, the GDP, right, is also without.
Yeah.
So my being placed here was so godly. How did I know? It's just, thank you. We're here. Now what? You know?
Yeah.
And so we are here at a place where we want to now build infrastructure, because I think what's missing in the landscape, mental health landscape anyways, is infrastructure to house those learnings and teachings, you know. So that's what we're doing right now in Boro. I don't know how we ended up there.
We're talking
Your
about...
eyes are just mesmerizing.
We're talking about Botho core. And, you know, you are still
kicking and screaming,
trying to explain it. And I understand. I mean, having started Diamond and Earth as well, is that you don't want to define something so much that you are rigid. And I can see that you're still in that space where you are letting it define itself. You know, what does Botho core mean? You know, what is it? And, you know, how does it actually respond to the needs of the community?
So Botho core, to be honest, it's not rocket science. I'm really leveraging on a once upon a time Peace Corps story. When I was dating my husband 25 years ago, I remember being jealous of my then boyfriend, now husband, of how he left Iowa and did not even know where Botswana was, but because of Peace Corps wanted to go and do good work out there. And I watched him and his cohorts just do amazing work. I mean, he was in his 20s as well. You know, he's 2 years older than me. So I was 21, he was 23 at the time. And I was just like, wow, imagine how cool that would be if we as Botswana could also be, you know,
deploy our own,
exactly. And there was also something about, you know, when help comes from people who look like us, you know,
it's different.
Yes. And I've been able to do that, you know, in Zimbabwe. I did it in Louisiana, Baton Rouge. And I remember being, you know, all the African American coming to me and being overwhelmed with the need because they wanted to come to me. And, you know, in the South, it's Miss Didi. You know, they want, Miss Didi, may you help me, Miss Didi. And I was in my 20s. You know, I'm fast forwarding. But anyways, I remember being jealous of that and wanting to emulate something like it. So Botho core is essentially Peace Corps starting nationally. But the idea is that we could have Ubuntu core, Unu core, Vunu core, you know, and Africa has its own core of people who can help in their communities, you know, and all you have to learn is some very basic psychological first aid, you know, because I believe that when crisis happens, the first people who are there is family and friends, right? And sometimes they're the ones who end up adding petrol to gaslighting us and all of that stuff. But it's because they don't know the right things to say.
True.
But imagine if we were to teach people the right things to say. You know, I've had people go, oh my gosh, thank you so much, Dr. Didi. And I think, I didn't do anything. I was just listening. You know? So what if we could learn how to listen? Because listening is healing.
It, you know, doesn't take a genius to be able to trace your obsession with Botho. There's AfroBotho, there's Botho core. What does that mean? What is your understanding of it? You know, how do you want everything that is done through the work that you do? How do you want that embodied?
Oh, gosh, actually, I honestly feel that the new success matrix is Botho. It really is. And I have this vision that the sooner we all learn the quotient ya Botho, the intelligence behind Botho, the sooner we find our wealth.
Botho quotient.
Botho quotient. BQ. Just like we've got emotional intelligence, right? We've got intellectual intelligence, right? It's that mental one that we all get tested. IQ, you're probably above average, right? But imagine if we had that Botho quotient. And Botho quotient, you don't have to be the smartest kid in the class, right? But you're doing good in your community, right? And so for me, Botho quotient, it's that understanding that my being is bound in yours. There is no I without you, you know? And I have also come to see that as equally important in mental health. Because when I started practicing at home, I didn't see so much the psychopathology I saw in the US.
Okay.
I saw a lot of people who were being unkind to each other. I saw a lot of, you know, lack of compassion for another. To a point where I'm thinking, this is not Botswana. That's not Botswana. No, Botswana you know? But no, that is our reality. That's where we've come, you know? So I think we need to kind of like backtrack and go back to Motho, you know, Botho. Just piggybacking on Motho, where we were able to build a university. You know, we just recently, UB was
celebrating its 40th years. I was there because I was graduating.
There you go.
UB 40.
See, UB 40. And here it is, 40 years later. You have benefited from our grandmothers.
Yes.
Whatever they had. And they were paying it forward. You know, the whole 20 years ago, now 40 years ago, you're a beneficiary of that.
Amen.
Look at that.
That's true.
That's what Botho really is, you know.
And so, you know, you talk about, because you can't really fully grasp the history of Botswana, the history of all these monumental events, such as the building of the university and so on and so forth, without that element of Botho. It's so fundamental to our history, to who we are, to how we connect as the world. And so, you know, I don't think we are at a point where we can say all is lost, you know, but what do you think has caused that disconnect, has caused that loss of, and even just putting it on the back burner and thinking, you know what, this we've moved on?
It's very simple, actually. There has been a divide and conquer, and it's also us piggybacking on values that are not ours at all, that we have no business in. We're a collective society. Rebato, gabato.
So, Lady D, I believe, like, you probably have learned this from you as well. We can identify all the things that are wrong and the things that are not happening. How do we now pivot back to being those people who embody Botho, especially today, 2022? What does Botho look like in 2022? What does it mean?
Well, for me, Botho in 2022 should be even more powerful than it was 40 years ago when they were building the university, because back then the values of the time was the homo, the booty and whatnot.
Yes.
But now the value we have, what has just come out of University of Botswana? This. And you're so many different things.
Yeah.
So for me, and that's why, the problem I saw was that lack, just that idea, there's not enough, is what has created that, like survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
But pivoting now, post-COVID, is even more important. It's important for us in disaster psychology, Rari, don't let a crisis go to waste.
Okay.
So in other words, we could use COVID as that event. It's affected every single family, everybody,
Yeah.
in one way or the other, and so for once, we are now at a point where collective healing is the only thing that's there to do.
Not isolated healing.
Collective
Can't
healing.
happen.
Can't happen. Because now when you speak of a pain, of a loss, of a grief, the whole country is with you on that.
Yeah. True.
So we need to take advantage of the times we're in and use the resources that we have. And for some of us, we're still learning how to use the gadgets.
Yeah.
But can you imagine how we can now connect? 40 years ago, and be like, okay, morero ke o, re tlhoka go aga university for bana ba rona. They weren't thinking about you,
Yeah.
but yet they were. Because
Yeah.
whether you had a child who is intelligent or not, or you didn't even have a child, you were contributing to the greater good.
Yeah.
So
Something
Botho,
beyond you.
something beyond you.
Yeah.
Something beyond you. I've been planting baobab trees that people will be enjoying 400 years from now.
Yeah, and you won't be there.
I won't be
and
there.
And you don't have to
I
stress
don't
about,
even have
am I going to get to enjoy that or not? But you are paying it forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's how important Botho is right now. Ke yone e leng gore tota actually, can't find the word.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the visual.
I will get it.
Yes, right?
It's circling
Yes,
around
it's
that.
circling
it's
around,
at
yeah.
the very center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I keep saying it is the vaccine we need for all the social ills. We were okay being told hore vaccine ke ya COVID,
Yeah.
and we went for it. So what if somebody says to you, actually, with all the social ills you're talking about,
Yeah.
you've got a vaccine for it. And that vaccine is having an inherent understanding, ya hore, hana, you're not more important than this one or that one. You are as important
Yeah.
and needed in the puzzle.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. Riska ra dira gore go nne le ba go teng ba leke ba youth, ba leke ba thoki, ba leke ba OVC. We're all important.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we stop having people identifying themselves as nake mothoki. There's nothing as heartbreaking as hearing that. Because that's all what I'm hearing is survival. Ke rutile gore ha nka re ke mothoki. That's the only time I can get attention for my needs.
Yeah.
But what if there's another way of giving you those? We belega.
Yeah.
Only a part of it. There's dignity in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Botho brings dignity.
I love it. We need to write it down. So Dr. D, Lady D told me that I get to write down something before I leave. So, that's definitely a slogan that I'll be holding on to as I do so many other things that you share. Lady D, you talked about something quite exciting. You talked about a concept, maybe a program we don't know, but definitely a concept, a life that you want to give yourself to for about the next 2 decades, you said, MatriArk.
The MatriArk.
What is the MatriArk? What does it mean?
The MatriArk. So the MatriArk is a female elephant who is like the wisdom bearer, and who takes care and teaches the young mothers who come about what to eat, what not to eat, and with
this trunk,
they don't like beat up like we do. They just like, hey, come on this way,
guide
come
and direct.
Yes. So that's the MatriArk. And I had an encounter with one, and it was from that encounter, like a real life elephant, in 2018. I started thinking about, hey, God, it's taken me 4 years. Jesus. See how I've been kicking and screaming and I'm still wanting to be Dr. Didi. So it was from that interaction, that encounter, that I started thinking and formulating in my head this idea of a matriarch, using the matriarch, but it's like ARK, as a place, like curating spaces where young people can learn all the things they don't learn in primary school, secondary school, and university. You just graduated from university.
Yes.
Did they teach you how to handle your emotions? Did you take a class that did?
No.
Were you taught about anger management?
Nope.
About conflict resolution?
I feel like I need to go back to school.
Right?
Yeah.
And you're not the only one. So many people have gone through all these. I've gone through all the years of school, but it's only because I was going to school specifically for psychology, right? But I keep thinking, what if I actually just spent the next 20 years teaching kids now, planting those seeds of saying your mind, body, and soul, but this mind bit, this is how you take care of it.
Yeah.
This is how you befriend your mind, so that in the future we don't see kids who are numbing, who are doing all kinds of dysfunctional behaviors to get away from the body, because that's what trauma does. It disconnects you, right? So you spend so much time. That's why we're so busy, busy. Busy is good, right? I've heard people say that. I'm like, well, it depends what you're running from.
Yeah.
Is it keeping you away from it? Then okay. Mission accomplished. But what I want to spend the rest of my life is curating a space where we have different therapies, right? Music, art, you name it, and teaching social and emotional learning.
Yeah.
So that we now have in the future well-balanced adults, because right now we don't.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And I don't blame them. Nobody has taught us that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what we don't know. Yeah.
Lady D, Diamond Unearthed, right? It's evolved so much over the years. When I started as a magazine and everything, and looked at it just like you're looking at AfroBotho, and it's like, whoa, this thing is big, and went back to the drawing board. But essentially, it's catering to the whole businesswoman, and as a psychologist, you can't leave your trauma behind and say, I'm going into business mode now, you know, because whether you like it or not, it seeps into that. And you've done a lot of work with women who are in power positions, you know. And so really that's the whole idea behind catering to the whole business woman. The fact that even as a woman, actually, you know, we are expected to leave so many elements of ourselves. Oh, you're too emotional. Oh, you are, you know, you are this and you're that. And, you know, a lot of people, when we think about the kind of work that you do, it's business, you know, not business in the sense that maybe, you know, in corporate and stuff like that, but it is, you know, we call it social entrepreneurship. Actually, what are your thoughts behind that?
Gosh, I have had not just thoughts, experiences with it, because what I learned actually is that you can't, it's been hard to put money into a human right like mental health, because what I ended up with is I've been seeing privileged people, as in people who are able to pay for my services, as if to say somehow people who don't have money don't have mental health problems. So my actually moving AfroBotho to Botho Core is an NGO, it's a trust. It's really to equalize the services so that we can have mental health services be accessible to everybody. It's inclusivity.
No man left behind.
Nobody left behind. Nobody left behind. So the moving into Botho Core was realizing that the ecosystem, the mental health ecosystem we're trying to build in the social enterprise here, AfroBotho, because initially it was like, okay, AfroBotho, 10% of our profits would go into our NGO, and we haven't made any profits to go into the NGO. So we ended up going, okay, let's just start an NGO and mobilize resources, create ecosystems in places like the Borough. As much as we are only 10 kilometers from Maung, there's no water in Borough, no sanitation in Borough, no electricity for the people of Borough, except if you go to BDF, except if you go to prison, except if you go to all the other houses along the river.
I see.
But water utilities, dololo. But Borough River. And this lagoon that has now dried out. Maybe because this is where people would come.
And now it has dried up. And be that as it may, you've been in this work for so long and have probably had the option to tap out, you know, had it but not really. What has kept you going, and what brings you the greatest delight from the work that you do? Someone has to do it, and you partnered with God and said, okay,
you know,
I'll answer the call.
And I said, I will keep my end of the deal if you do. And Shams keeps showing up, you know, thinking that, no, can't do this. The signs are everywhere. It was not accidental that we ended up here. It wasn't accidental that I met my husband, you know, 10 kilometers from where we live now, 25 years ago. But what keeps me coming here, I really love Boro in that Botho still exist here. So much so that I watched once, you know, 2020 was our biggest flood. So the road right next to where the lagoon goes was flooded. And one guy said, like literally used those words. And they started a new road, you know. But what I love most about this place here is go bontsha very, very simply. We talk about this with people by Lekwa Gaborone and they don't get it. To say, when you are far from the hub, dilo ga di trickle down ko go lona, right? Batho ba Boro, they live like they're living in 1970, 80, but it's 2022. But yet they still believe, you know, the despair thing is not in that we are the forgotten people. And all I think they need is for Motho who's around here to come to the new. Like, for instance, just recently, I wrote a letter to Lucara, and I said, yo, you just discovered the second biggest diamond in the world. Where I live, there's some diamonds who are walking 10 kilometers to school, 20 kilometers every day to school. And because of that, we were given base.
Yeah, that's
beautiful.
So
for me, it's really about, you know, have I talked to you about this before, but my mantra was play your part, be your art, heal your heart.
Yes.
So right now what I'm in my element is about me playing my part.
Okay.
When I'm here in Boro, what can I do? I have access to people in Gaborone. I have access even to people in the US. I have access to people globally because I'm connected. So what we want is Banaba Boro le bone to be connected. So in other words, we're going to be lighting up Boro. We are going to be building with Batoba Boro.
Okay.
We want Boro to be an example of what happens when we come together. What can happen when we come together. So people keep saying, Kante ha AfroBotho currency, what does it look like? I think at some point you have to show the people. This is what it looks like. We've got before of what this place looked like before we came. What is it now? So that's my...
Thank you for that response. And I know, you know, there's so many people who are doing a lot of hard work, people who want to get into the hard work. And I think that's one of the challenges maybe of, you know, running an NGO usually is like, but also at the same time, I still need the resources to be able to run what I'm doing. What have you found, you know, just over the years of doing this work are some of the greatest challenges that you can mention? Because I'm all about, let's give people a clear picture, you know, because you have that thing that won't let you go. You want to help people, but there is a reality of 1, 2, 3, 4. What are some of the things that people maybe can kind of be thinking about as they want to head into a similar space?
Not to sound like a broken record, money has been a problem. But what I've also realized is that money is a problem in how we conceptualize it.
Okay.
You know, I'm trying to enter... Okay. As in, I really don't know how to make... And it also sounds weird, make mental health profitable. It just wasn't. That's why the social enterprising was coming in, where I've used sliding scales since I've started. But I do also happen to have student loans, 120,000 worth.
Wow.
Of US dollars in student loans. Because kids into school. So it was that and going, gosh, I'm never going to be able to pay the US government if I'm doing things this way. So that one, I don't have an answer to. That's why I hopped on the NGO, thinking, okay, you said do for others. I get it. Okay, let's do it. Let's go. So right now, our core thing is to have a fiscal sponsor.
Okay.
Once we have a fiscal sponsor, then we can have a social worker, then we have a communicator person, we've got an accounting person and whatnot, right? Because as much as I'm here, big proponent for volunteering, when I was volunteering with the Red Cross, you know, so if I went for 2 weeks, which is what our our deployment was, I would be given a credit card with that much money for it. So when you're working here, this, and I'm putting it out there actually, because I don't have an answer to it.
Yeah.
But I do want to turn Botho into a currency.
Okay.
As in, we can have people come and volunteer with us. In exchange, seba si duelwang ka sone can apply in other places.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, it's almost like getting a back door into barter trading that we used to do back then, right? But I still don't know how to do it because it's also real. People need money. You know? So I'm here just like, and I don't know if it's the MatriArk or God, somebody will show what needs to be done or how to do it.
Yeah.
But for now, I just have these ideas based on my own experience. It's been hard, Noms.
Yeah.
Being broke with a PhD, it's not fun. Because the perception of people, you know, for me, it's a double whammy. I have a PhD and I'm married to a white man. You know what that white man means in this context, right? This is him. This is where his money goes, you know?
It's an artist.
He's an artist.
Yeah.
So I don't have a good answer for you for that one.
Thank you so much for your honesty, Lady D. I believe, you know, moving forward, in order for people to make informed decisions, to be mentally prepared, and I know it doesn't always stop things from happening, but at least people can be mentally prepared as much as depends upon them, as it depends, because life will also throw you some curveballs. Running an NGO will throw you some curveballs, but at least for people to understand, sometimes life happens, right? I believe in closing. You know, I've been such a firm believer in the work that you do from the moment that I met you and you sat down and shared the story. And I know that there's someone that this resonates with out there. And some people, yes, can take their checkbook out. You know, I know checkbooks are not a thing in Botswana anymore, but people can play their part. How can people play their part? What kind of invitation would you give to someone who wants to be a part of AfroBotho? How can people be, or Botho Core, how can people be a part of Botho Core? And even just embodying that within their own space. So if, you know, they feel I'm too far away from Maung, the Boro, but I still want to enlist as one of the soldiers in the work that you're doing, directly, indirectly, practically. Yeah.
So the vision for Botho Core is to have chapters.
Okay.
Chapters in, you know, in different districts that are being run from those districts.
Okay.
So Rona Totahela from Botho Core, what our role would be to training the trainers, training the leaders, training the youth core, right? So Rena Lady Youth chapter like that across the country, right? Because, and what we're really going there for, Noms, is that, and this I hope is the message to Botswana. Obana politics, religion, it divides us.
Yeah.
And I find that for a population as small as ours, 2,000 people is
2 million.
2 million. 2 million. It feels like 2,000. 2 million people is so small that we can actually be both impactful and we can also scale.
True.
Easy.
Yeah.
Right? But that only happens if we create the loops. Like one of the things that I love the most about the government's triple Ps, the triple P is the private-public partnerships. If we were to do that, as a country, to say we are one people, we're not red, green, yellow, whatnot, party colors. And because those are things that divide us. But yet we are praising the same God. We are thankful for the same president. You know what I mean? We just need to go back to our own humanity that recognizes mafoko akota amante ote. We are one, and everybody, we can get something from every single person if we actually listen. So I believe that if we actually used Botho as the one currency that every single 2 million plus of us has access to. Not because I'm rich and everybody has access to the Botho currency and they can trade in it. You know, people are busy trading in crypto, what. But what if we traded in something serious? Or if you use this, 40 years later, there'll be a young noms having graduated at top of her class from the University of Botho. Right? But think about it.
Yeah, true.
You are the manifestation of that.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
So if we did that, if we really focus on what Botho is and how does it look in all the different communities we belong to. Because what it's going to look like in Boro, it's going to be different.
True.
Right? Yeah. Sanitation and
the context is different.
Very different. Right? And every child in Boro should know how to swim.
Yeah.
Because why? They live right on the channel. So my closing is that we need to go back to the drawing board, wherever you are, and say, I'm a graduate, Limco, and I can create apps, right? What if we all hop on this Botho currency app? We've got about the hackathon. I'm putting it out there. I'm like old and dusty, but
okay.
In this space,
okay,
in the space of digital world,
okay.
In other space, I'm an elder. But in this one, I'm so brand new. I don't know how we can use the digital world to forward Botho and have it be present to everything that we do. You know?
Yeah.
Once upon a time, just a real quick story, that Mazen, I had some transitional youth. I don't know if I ever told you about this. It's a beautiful story. Had some transitional youth, Limco, you know, graduates, skulung and stuff. And we were talking about, this is 2014, 2015. And we're basically talking about what youth need.
Yeah.
And I said to them, do you know what? When I was growing up, we had Mabijo.
Yes.
Mabijo. And of course they're going, oh gosh, how old is she? And Mabijo was, whether Oko South or North, you all knew who Mabijo was, right? And then we had I Need to Know. It was a pamphlet, about like sex ed and that kind of stuff. And I said, you know what? I believe that what's missing for you all right now is a central character who could bring you all to this, right? And I was thinking about Botho as a person, as a character, right? But they came and I said, I'm going to the bathroom. I'm giving you guys 10 minutes. When you come back, because Gitsoro pressure makes people really think, right? I went to the bathroom and I was just whiling away, talking to the receptionist and stuff. I kid you not, Noms, I come back. I think there was like six, 7 youth in the room. I come back and I said, okay. They're like, they're so pumped. It's not the same people. They're now having a whole presentation. Sit me down and they go, okay, so here's our character. our character is all Zen.
Okay.
It's all Zen. And they're talking. It's so funny as they're talking, I'm like, ooh, this sounds like a person I want to be. And then after that, they go, like, for instance, say, you, Dr. Dito, or Ma Zen, Ma with a double M.
Wow.
Right? And then there were some young ladies in the room. Kibo Ma Zen, as an M-A Zen.
Okay.
And Bana give the brothers, Kibo Bra Zens.
Brazen.
But Hase Brazin.
Yes,
there's Brazen, there's Brazen. Like you earn being a Brazen. And you earn it by how you take care of yourself. What kind of man, umunatia.
Yeah.
Right? And then they go on and say, and by the way, the Brazens, they go into the community and they've got the cousins. Cousins.
Wow.
So it was all about centered around Zen.
Wow.
And, you know, to this day, I've been kicking myself for not actually doing something about that. And what they were these young people who were saying, we don't see role models out there. We don't have role models, Mukhaye. They're all trying to be rich.
Yeah.
And they're all blowing their money on booze. And then the next thing, my dear, house we can see the train wreck.
Yeah.
But we don't have an option. So I'm saying this is a call out to all young people out there. It's like we can create our own reality.
Yeah.
I watched it happen with these young people. And by the way, Mazen and the Brazens and the cousins are coming too.
Come on now.
Of course.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Lady D, for doing what you always do. Grounding and being home, you know, being such a beautiful home and embodying Botho on a daily basis. And, you know, I believe that there's a lot of work to be done, but we should also stop and acknowledge, you know, how far we've come. Just laying that foundation and continuing to do so. If someone wants to get a hold of you, you know, inquire, wants to give to the work that you're doing, how do they get in touch?
Okay, we have an email, info@bothocore.org. I'm afraid of giving my phone number because when I do, it becomes like late night SOSs, which was the other reason why I stopped. So info@bothocore.org, or didi.biorn@gmail.com.
All right. So and we'll also just write them down in the description box so that people are able to hear that. Thank you so much, Lady D, for your time.
Thank you.
I appreciate it as always, and you know, thank you for listening and heeding to the call for a transition, for an evolution, and just for being present. For being present and doing the work, the difficult work, but the necessary work. You know, thank you so much for being with us today. I believe that you took something, not even just maybe one thing, multiple things. I take away so much when I spend time with Lady D, just her being, not necessarily only what she says, what she does, but just who she is. And I believe that, you know, as we're starting off the new year, and we have goals, and it's all about doing, and I wish to see us having goals of being. Who are we becoming? Who are we being? And it's spaces like this, being still. She has a board there behind her written, "Be still." And so I pray that we do spend that much more time and just have a look around and ask ourselves, how are we contributing to the greater good of the country? So Motho le Motho Botho. I love it so much. And so thank you so much for staying tuned, and until next time, this is Nompendulo Shabango on Business and Earth.